Good morning everyone, welcome to my channel. So in today's video I just want to do a little bit more work on my little snippet botanical journal. Got quite a few things I can work on, so I'll bring you up to speed on my little piece. Now this was a little piece that I did in Jennifer Clouston's class. I did the main piece, went back for a couple more classes, and we just started having a play with some flowers, and I think I did the stem and one little sprig. Well, I've since had a play with it, finished it off, and in the last video you would have seen me add in these scrappy bits of fabric to sort of make it look like it's all part of the project. At the time of doing it, I didn't know what I was going to use it for, and we've since developed this idea, and it's now been trimmed down and has got its home in this little journal of snippets. So the first piece is complete, and I was just sitting here looking at it, and I feel like I can see blue pen here. Now there's a mixture of my usual heat soluble pen, and then when I was in Jennifer's class, I didn't even think to take a pen, and I was using one of these blue water erasable ones. So I can just sort of see the shadow of a few blue lines. So before I sort of forget about it and pop it into the book and not pick it up again, this is one of those pens that you can add water to them. You like undo the nib here, fill it up with water, and it comes through this soft brush. It's really handy, especially if you're someone that does use the water-soluble pens. I don't use them a lot anymore. I used to use them all the time when I was quilting. But I'm really like the heat erasable ones. I can just see a few little shadows of blue around, so just add a little bit of water while I think of it. Okay, so that's done. Now this piece of lace is flipping around here a bit too. I did want to secure that down, so I might just grab a quick piece of needle and thread. Then I want to put it into the journal. Just threading the old needle here. So how have you all been? Feels like ages since I've recorded a video. I did a heap of pre-recording, and now I'm sort of back in the room again. Sort of once I get a few done, I sort of take a bit of a rest and change of scenery, as they say. But I picked up my Fleur Woods piece, and I've been stitching away at that for a day or so, and then I saw this sitting on my desk, and I thought, oh, I better finish that off and get it into the journal and set myself up with the next little project within this snippet journal. So that's where I'm at. I just noticed that I don't have my cotton in here, my good old sewing machine cotton I use for stitching down, you know, tacking and invisible stitch. Can't see it anywhere. Oh, Bandit. Good morning, Bandit. Let's just see if it's in here. Nope. I might have to pause the video, guys, and find where my cotton has gone to. This is what happens when you go away for a day or so from your room. You sort of forget where everything is. The other thing I want to do is, I thought I might, while I'm thinking of it, stitch in one of these laundry labels. And keep your eye open on Etsy, and you might be able to pick up your initials. So it took me ages to find them, and I thought this really suits the colour scheme of this piece. And I thought, well, I'm going to take the opportunity to stitch it in. Yeah, that's where I'll stitch it. Stitch it in, and then it's done, and I've got a signed piece within my book. Should really be signing all of our pieces of work. Oh, those dogs. Goodness me. All right, I'm going to pause it and then I'll be back with cotton and I can stitch that down and then we're going to actually attach it to my book. Won't be a moment. Okay, I'm back. Got my needle and thread, reprimanded the dogs. They're being so rude. So I'm just going to do some little whip stitches over cast stitch to hold this little one in position. If you've got patience, you could buy letters that make words too. I have seen that where people have gathered quite a few letters together to spell out bigger words, which is a bit of fun. I don't have that patience. You can buy combinations of mixed letters and numbers. But if you do see your initials, grab it because it's a really lovely way to sign your piece, having a vintage. Well, they might even be antique. Some of these date back a way. Little laundry labels. Back in the day when you would have sent your household linens to the launderer down the street because no one had washing machines and you'd probably hand do your delicates, but things like your bed linen and your tea towels and, you know, your general linens, you'd have these little laundry tags on them. I remember having to do it for school. You know, your jacket, your hat would all have your name on it. I presume they're still doing all that. I still hear the famous catch cry, "Where's your jacket?" I left it at school. And from what I can see on second-hand sites, the school clothing is a crazy price now. And little Johnny leaves it at school or leaves it lying on a bench. That would be most frustrating for parents, my guess. Okay, that's that on. I was going to stitch this actually to this front page, and then I recalled that I had suggested a flip out. So I'm going to do that actually. I'm not going to put it here. I'm going to add a flip out to the cover, which I know I've talked about, but I haven't shown you how I do it. So we need some calico. We need nothing to size over there. I'm just going to grab my bolt of calico. I'm nearly to the end of it. Gosh, I go through some meterage of this stuff. So I'm just going to do a snip and a rip and get ourselves a base that I can use as my flip out. Let's just try and measure this the best I can. So we want something to adhere to the cover that allows us to attach all of our needlework to. Oh, goodness me. My poor little scissors. Is that the right size? Just double check. It's pretty close. Then it's a case of, I might rip it right through. Tidy up this piece of fabric then, and that'll give me some spare on my table. Okay, now I feel better. So I've measured my height. Yep. And then we need to work out our length. So I'm sort of doing it a little bit backwards at the moment, but you'll see what I mean because I've got the fold here in the spine. Oh, which you could do suppose it doesn't really matter. I usually put the fold on the outer edge of my book. Okay. Do we rip another one for the back cover while we've got our hands doing this task? We may as well. So I'm going to tear 2 now. Then it's done. I don't think I did one. No. See, I tend to get all my bases done, all my calico or muslin bases prepped. Then I don't have to think. I can just sit down and stitch. Or if I've stitched something, I know I can head to this book and there's a spot waiting. Or go to the book, get the dimensions, grab a base, and off I go. I love having journals ready to receive my work. All right. So what we're going to do is attach that to there. That'll fold over, making us a fold out page ready to take some work. Now the only other thing you have to have a think about is how do you want it to secure, because as you open that page, excuse me, as you open the page, this might flip around. So I might grab some, what will we use? I tend to use seam binding. Can I see any seam binding? Yes, I can. Here's a little piece sitting randomly. So what I would recommend is you attach some seam binding here with some glue. I might use art glitter glue because it's fast and furious. Actually, we might put a little bit of blue glue in as well. Can't hurt. There's a red cotton. I'm going to get rid of that because red cottons seem to pop up and you'll see it where you don't want to see it. You might do a beige embroidery and then you've got this piece of red cotton. There we go. So that's just going to be attached there. And now, using my glue stick. Now you could use your PVA like we did prior. I just don't have it on hand. So I'm just going to use glue stick, which is just as good. Got a cotton thread there. Oops. And just make sure I've got plenty of it smeared around. Oh, how quickly your fingers get gluey. Oh, goodness. It's a struggle at school when I was a kid and it's still a struggle. Oh my. Alright. Can always tuck a little glue in where it's not quite catching. But that'll be pretty good. Now we've got our little tie in. It's not going anywhere. I did a little fold to give me a bit of an idea of where the edge of my book is. So it's just a case of giving it a good squish. Get my burnishing tool. This is just to make sure the glue that you put down really gets into the fibres of the fabric. Just can't hurt. So if you did a piece of embroidery now, you would then attach it with some glue here. Now, if you wanted to, you could hold this step off and stitch it onto here and then attach all of it down with the glue. But it doesn't really matter. Like, at the end of the day, as long as it's secure and it's in position, that's pretty good. That folds over. Now that there will be ready to take this. So I'm going to just pop some pins in for now, because the other thing we've got to do is make sure that we do our tie as well. Now, I'm not worried if, whoops, didn't even pin it correctly. Start again, girl. Start again. Really, I should let that dry. I'm sort of putting the horse before the cart again, but just so you guys can see the next step. Line it up. There we go. Now let's pin it. So that's not going anywhere. And this will be the first piece in the book on the inside cover. I've got such a generous spine on this, I'll be pretty confident I'll be able to do this front and back plus heaps inside. I'd rather have a bigger spine because it's amazing how quickly it bulks up. So I've got plenty of room in there. Now, I'm going to catch that in there as well and just line it up with the other one. I'll just put, whoops, oh goodness me, I've still got sticky residue on my fingers, which is not good when you're handling embroidery. Let's just clean that up, girl. That's better. So you want to put a little bit of glue just to catch that end. And just check that it lines up with that one. Could be down a fraction. You could measure it if you were so inclined. There we go. I might put a little bit this side. That's really just to tack it. When I come through with my needle and thread, that's not going to go anywhere. So let's put that back in there. Okay. Nice and flat. That's gripping. So I'm going to attempt to stitch this, but technically I should wait for this to dry. So it just means I can't wriggle my work too much. So I'm just going to do little invisible stitches like the usual. I'll come through. Gosh, I should wait for this to dry. I'm being impatient. Just want to see it in the book. There we go. Little stitches. I'm going to whip around the perimeter first. I had a few of you ask, you know, how do you then attach your pieces? So I thought, right, we're going to finish this one. We're going to get it into the little book. So if you do have a few pieces already, at least you can start adding them in. So I'm sort of like I'm jumping ahead a centimetre, just under an inch, doing a tiny little stitch on the top so that I don't see this thread, but at the same time it's bringing all layers together. So I'll just come through again on this side. Like I said, I was going to go around the perimeter a second ago. Well, I just looked underneath there and I've actually missed that base just a little bit. So I'm just going to whip along the bottom edge again. Then I know it's really secure. It doesn't take long to do this. And sometimes you might want to just let them lay in the book loose and then decide your layout. Other times you might want to pop them all in because it can then dictate what the next page is to you. So for example, this page here, I would probably do something that complemented this one. So as you open the book, you've got, you know, a certain style happening, if you will. Don't have to. I would probably do, if I was doing something there, I'd either pick up on the red and go a real burgundy look, or make this a little bit more gentle and maybe make it a beige with the green and the pink again, but on a softer background. Does that make sense? So sometimes by stitching in your random pages, when you come back to your book and you feel like doing a little snippet, you can have a flick through the pages and go, oh, look at this blue one. Let's do a version of it again. So now I'm going to come up through this side, and because the fabric edge is way back here, I'm doing my stitching actually back. Whoops, I've come straight through the flower. So just working my way up, and I'll just a few little stitches around that tie point, and that'll really make sure that it's secure. We're not relying just on the glue to hold it. That's not going anywhere. The more stitches, the better. This one is actually better for the inside cover because it was closer to the size of the actual cover than it was these in here. I don't know how that happened. Doesn't really matter because I tend to have bits of the work hanging out everywhere. When I went to get the cotton, which was beside my chair in the lounge room, I picked up my Fleur Woods piece, so I'll show you that too and the progress. It's been a challenge. Oh, just hated it for weeks. It was just, I don't know, not coming together. I'm trying to do colours I wouldn't normally do. I'm trying to do a style I wouldn't normally do, so that, you know, I actually learn something. And even Fleur said sometimes your pieces go through an ugly stage, just hang in there. And because of the sheer amount of work that's needed to do the piece, the embroidery, oh my goodness, I have literally spent hours on it. You'll see what I mean when you see it. But I'm nearly to the point where I've got my background down, some feature flowers done, and it's soon to be the embellishing, which I suspect is when the piece will really come alive. That's my understanding of it. And I could have done a more, Fleur uses the word ethereal style of piece, which is what I did with the flowers that I showed you. You know, where I did a couple flowers while I sketched it and then fabric them in. But this piece is more densely stitched. And oh my goodness, talk about an effort. But look, I am enjoying it. Don't get me wrong. I am enjoying it. It sounds like I'm having a whinge. I am enjoying it. I'm glad I did it too, because it sort of feels like I'm doing a piece for me. Does that make sense? A lot of these little projects I'm doing, I love them. But is it a nice meaty, you know when you make a quilt and it takes you years to do? It's what I call a meaty piece. So it's nice to have something that's just ticking away. And you can pick it up occasionally. I like to have at least something like that. Now, I'm going to attempt to go down that seam. But I might actually flip. I don't want to put pressure on the glued fabric, which I am. I should really wait, shouldn't I? I might wait. Maybe I can sneak my needle and thread down. Oh, talk about impatient. Absolutely. Okay, just gentle, gentle girl. Gentle as you go. There's heaps of you doing snippet journal, which is great. So when Jennifer does one of her little videos, you can pick up a needle and thread and have a little play with something new you may have spotted. And then you've got a home to put it. Why not? All right. Nearly there. We've nearly got her cornered. So tiny little stitches. And all these little threads that are coming from all these little scrappy bits, I'm okay with them. I'm not going to trim them off unless, you know, some look like they're really getting out of hand. But I like all that. Just think, this is not meant to be a pristine book. In my head, this belongs to a botanist that's, you know, wandering through Australian bushland sketching random things. Okay, pretty happy with that. Got a bit of thread left. So I'm just going to go on a diagonal through the work. Some nice generous big stitches in behind, but that'll help hold the center of my work down. And that should be plenty. It's only a little piece. But that's how I stitch my pieces into my journals. Okay, just enough thread. That is now attached to the base, which is attached to the cover. Does that make sense? So, I don't think I disrupted that glue too much. Nothing that can't be reattached. Let's get our little journal back. So here's, oops, what have we done? We twisted all of the seam binding around. Okay, so that page is in. And I have the option now of opening it up, closing it, and I can tuck in there. Let's trim this down to size. Gee, it's pretty close the way it is. I might just cut it in half. What am I going to save? A tiny little bit. So what I could do is prep a piece of calico to sit in there, which I sort of have anyway, haven't we? probably need to be a fraction smaller. Oh no, that's pretty good. I might do that. Let's do it. I've got a bit left here that could be prepped. So this would be my base for a stitchery that would go, you know, in the center of this little flip out. That should be about the same size. Yep, it is. I might just make it a fraction smaller because, you know, folds and that tend to absorb a little bit of, and if it turns out that it's not the right size, well, you can always trim it. So this little piece that I've just torn will be the piece to go in here. So you go and get some pretty fabric, create a background, stitch your embroidery, use this as your stabilizing fabric, and then you come back and you're ready to place it into your little book. And I'm just, for now, going to pin it there so that if I happen to grab this book and race out the door, I've got my base ready. That will close. So the decorative fabric would cover then out to that edge, right up to there. And in measurement wise, if you are using a little book like this, I'd probably do 9 3/4 and 7.5 would be my next embroidery. Imagine that, full of flowers, Jennifer flowers. Oh, ready for a rainy day. And then this can just be tied off. Oop. Just loose. It's really just to hold your page so that you're not, it's not flip-flopping around when you open the cover of the book. So I'm just going to put a little knot. You could pop a couple beads on the end of there, whatever you want. Actually, let's be precise and undo that completely and see what the other side tail looks like. And oh, more thumbs today. So yeah, as I thought, there was some little scrappy bits. We'll hold those because they're good to stitch in to backgrounds. So there you go. Now you could iron the seam binding if yours is all wrinkled like that, but I'm going to leave it because it's part of that. It's going to get wrinkled anyway. So these little scrappy bits, we might just pin there for a rainy day. And they might be able to be used as part of some ground, you know, stitched in as texture, and then your plant would go up from there. So can't hurt to leave them there. All right. So that is the start of your little flip out first page. Love that. Found a home. Now I'm going to flip to the back. Seeing we've been preparing ourselves. Look at all these threads. If you don't like fibres and threads from fabric, you're not going to like this. All right. That's not it. This is it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick this one in now. And then it's in. Once again, put a little crease, and I've just come back from that edge just a little bit. All right. So we start with the glue. And our book, our little journal, is just about finished in the way of prepping it for embroideries. A few bits here that are sticking up, so we might as well catch them as well. Beautiful. That's not going anywhere. Now I've got sticky fingers again. All right, let's put our little base in. Now this could have been a different colour. Doesn't have to be calico, but it's just cost effective. And when you do so much stitching like I do, I just find that I love the thickness it adds to my pieces, whatever I be working on. It's economical for me. I can buy a little bolt of it. I think it has 10 meters or something on it from Spotlight. And when it goes on sale, I just grab myself one. Surprised at how many meters of it I go through. I'd say I've probably bought 6 or 7 since I've been on YouTube, which next year will be 2 years in January. How time has flown. My goodness. There we go. That feels pretty good. Oh, you know what I didn't do? Guys, what doesn't really matter is I haven't put the tie in. And it doesn't matter because I'm yet to put, let's pretend this was embroidery. I'm yet to attach a piece, so it could go in there. So it doesn't have to go there, which is fine too, because let's say I want a blue tie or a red tie, depends on what the embroidery is. That tie suited that particular piece, so I'm not going to stress about that. So that can just sit there quietly until I'm ready. And look, this piece might just be big enough to give me another base, like the one I just added. Yep, it is. Let's do that. And it's in. It's done. There we go. And then we'll just, and remember when I said back in the tutorial that if this was a gift for someone and you were setting them up with the base of the journal and these little pages were torn ready, just use a cotton and stitch an X top and bottom, and then that little piece like I've done here is ready to go, and then embroidery on the inside. I might actually do that because I've just donated some pins to the project and I'm going to run out of pins. So I'm actually going to do the stitch like I said. I only take a moment, at least it's done, because I go looking for pins and I'm like, where are they all? Oops. That knot was useless. So what are you all working on? Are you doing some Jennifer snippets? There we go. Little X and then just a little stitch. That's all you need. And you can use your scissors to release it to go and embroider on it. Unless as part of the gift you want to give the recipient some pretty little pins or something. Maybe they're just starting out on needlework. Great Christmas idea, guys. Make some journals for some friends. Might just encourage them to join you, especially your friends that are admiring from a distance but too unsure about actually doing anything. Well, give them the base. And you might find they suddenly take that step, that dive into the abyss that is needlework, slow stitching. All right, so the back cover's ready with a template to work on, a base. We've got our flip out base in position. I won't put that piece there because who knows what that'll be. That one's got a page. Those two would join together with a pretty stitch either side. Yep, that one's done. Yeah, great. And I've got this little guy now has found a home. So there you go. First piece into the little book. Excellent. Now, remember we were prepping the bases for these? And we hadn't yet decided which was going to go where. How are we going for time? We've got time, haven't we? So I'm going to... Now, Jennifer did a dead stick stitch, didn't she? Do we do a dead stitch or do we want a pop of green? So maybe I do the dead stitch on this. Sort of is a bit competing with the back. Dead stick. Let's do a dead stick. Oh, that's right. I had a little snippet of it left. Where's my needle? All right, so now I'm going to do this one. I want this one done and attached. So this will be quite quick. And I'll do the old dead stick on this. And if I really like it, I can do a bigger version on there. So I'm just going to do the classic, if I can keep my needle threaded, I'm going to do the classic stem stitch. So if you're wondering what the hang I'm doing and you want some more proper tutorial, head over to Jennifer's YouTube site and she'll take you through the little tricks you need to know to get your pieces just right. I can even just watching it all again. I've watched the videos a couple of times. I'm seeing techniques that I've already forgotten, which I joked at the time that by the time I got to the roundabout on the main highway to drive home, I would have forgotten some of the little intricate techniques. So it's so good she's on YouTube because we can just go back and give her 12 minutes, 8 minutes, whatever the little video is, the perfect size for training and learning things, and pick up what technique we've actually forgotten. Now I'll go down into the actual lace. Let's anchor it into there. And I might do a bit of a wrap around the stem. I like that little technique that she does. Ow. Okay. Mustn't forget to leave a few minutes at the end to show you my Fleur Woods piece. I also enrolled in a second course with Kelly May Kretz. I think that's her name. I did the itty bitty stitchery one that she released some time ago, and now she's released another one. So I've got that one sitting waiting for me. So what I'm going to do is where those stitches have crossed over, I'm just going to wrap might take my glasses off so I can see a little better. I'm just going to wrap the thread around twice, and it gives it like a little nodule. It's ever so subtle, but it's one of those little tricky Jennifer things you're like, oh, isn't that clever? Just a couple. It's like the joint of which a plant might send a shoot out. You're sort of creating that Whoops. You're creating that thickness on your little stem. Like I said, it's subtle, but it is fun. And those little points you can bring more stitches out from. So this will be my next one I can have a little play with. And then that'll be attached to, I'm thinking, the back cover, because it's only little. Be a shame to go to all this effort on this one, which is bigger, and stick it on the back. So yeah, that's the plan, is to there we go. So just a couple little nodules. We might put another one down here. I can feel this fabric flipping around here under my finger. Even that too. So I might have to put a few more little invisible stitches in, but we'll see how the embroidery goes. It might be fine. Now I'm going to end that off because I'm going to do another main branch. Let's put the spectacles back on so I can see long shots. My vision really close up is spot on. Just gets progressively worse the more I look past my nose. There we go. So let's, actually I might just do some general stitches, I think. Just go with whatever you feel. I might get this branch really cemented down. Where will I go next? I might do that into that joint, and then that off of there. I love how you just meander. Oh, it's just liberating. I might put a second little branch off of there. I'm running out of thread, so I'm sort of just hanging around the top here. Yeah, if I got enough thread, I probably could get one more in. Might just do that classic little elbow that she does. Might make an elbow here, and that'll be the last of my thread. There we go for time. Cruising. At least get my structure done. My dead stick. Oh, my stomach's rumbling. Can you hear that? It's time for breakfast. Time for breakfast. Hubby's still in bed. I might have to throw something at him to get him up. I might bring my branch in from out here. I just feel like I need to instead of where I had drawn it, just open it up a little bit. Seem to have acquired some pink fluff there. And don't be afraid that if you've sketched something and suddenly you're heading off in a different direction, that's the adventure of it. Just go with it. And sometimes colour, when you pick your threads, dictates where you go. I've had that happen before. Now I'm going to do that little weave again, and I'll work my way back up that branch. Just do a couple little weaves. That'll help with that little nodule look that I'm going for. And I'll do another one here. I think I'll need to get a lot finer with my thread from this point because it's only a little stitchery. Might just bring now some random branches, one up there, little guy there. Might leave a gap. I won't go to that next nodule. That felt very predictable. I might leave that for maybe a paler, finer thread to come back and put some more little sticks in. Oh, my tummy. See, to me, that's too sharp of an angle. It just didn't look right. I might actually not even do, where is it? I'm not going to do a little elbow on that. Just feels like it's getting a bit too heavy. It's such a fine little stick. Just might just do a little one off of there. And maybe a little elbow out from him. Let's see what it looks like. If it doesn't look right, just unpick it. Oh, it's a little bit, yeah, no, it's all right. I think once I get some more stitches in, I might, instead of doing the same stem stitch, I might do one of those stitches where you couch it out. So you pull your thread over. I love them. So something just a little bit different to get out to this point. So you come in like that. I like that. And then we might come up here. So just a finer look, because the other one had the satin stitch. That's too big of a stitch. Maybe if that was couched up to there. Yeah, that looks better. Okay, not all is lost. It looked like too big of a stitch on that side of my little branch. But if we pull it over and couch it down, it'll break it up. That's it. And then we might put a little guy there. Yep, that's okay. It's a twig. It's a little twig. Now I might end that off and come back down the bottom. I feel like I could do something down the bottom where it meets the ground, like a tiny little twig. It's going more like a twig at the moment. It's not a dead tree. It's a dead branch. Now, if you're unsure of where you want to go next, because I sort of want to attach in here somewhere, bring your needle up and just lay your thread down to see where you're heading with it. I'm going to go out here and I might do that little couch down branch look. Just want a little tweak. It's like that. Yep. And then I can do another little one coming off of it. And then we'll slip over here and just do, if I've got enough thread, we'll do another one into there. Yep, I like that. So you could even, if you had two pieces on the go and you were just thinking sticks, twigs, branches, You could probably even then go to another piece and start laying down your threads. Now that little guy is quite thick, so I might drop down to this one. We'll keep it all browns, and we'll just start popping in a few little more dainty branches. So I might do, I don't want to lose that angle. I've got this wonky look about it and I really like it. But I do feel like I need to soften it up a little bit. Admittedly, the first two stitches aren't being seen because they're on a similar beigey branch. But let's skip up this branch here. Just add some more interest. I don't know what flower I'll do yet. No need to make decisions. Let's have this as like nearly new growth. Just some little twiggy bits. I'm heading up. Still think I need something down there. Something into there. Now I'm going to catch that little guy over there. Now we're heading over to this side branch. We might just pop one there. I think if I learnt anything from the class is don't continue with the one thread for too long. Change it out to another colour, another shape, another size. And don't treat every branch the same. So if you're putting a V-stitch somewhere, don't put V-stitches on every joint. Skip them. You've got to keep it random. I think for years my work was very predictable. And when you start watching Jennifer's work, she'll just cut herself a piece of thread and she'll work it and then pick up another thread. I think that's probably about it. I feel like there's a bit of a gap here, but we'll leave it at that for now because I don't want to hem myself in with the one thread. That's exactly what I was talking about. I probably would have gone in there and going, oh, I've got 2 inches left, just go for it, finish the thread. No, don't. It's that hold the back a little until you know. There we go. There's our little stick started. And that's, yeah, I'm happy with it. I'm just looking up at my TV. My iPad projects to my TV via a Apple box. What do they call them? Apple TV box. It's a tiny little black thing. And it allows Apple products like phones and iPads to talk to a TV. And you get a little remote with it. So it's so handy if you are a YouTuber and you're chasing your hands around a bit. I can glance really quickly up at the screen. So that's sort of how I get around that. Yeah, I think that's it for now. I'm going to leave it at that. It's just a snippet. Don't want to, overdo it, overwork it. And that will find its home there on the back of my little journal. And I'll have a think about what leaves come into it, if at all. Maybe I'll do another little branch or something. Who knows? So let's pop that in the cover with the cover. Just keep it safe for a rainy day. And then I've still got my little bag of tricks. If I do go somewhere with it, I've just got bits that might be useful. Now, Fleur Woods, let me show you where we're at. Okay, here we go. Oh my goodness, you're thinking the hours of work. So it's coming together. It's, yeah, I felt better once I got my border in. Fleur embroiders right to the very edge in a lot of her solid pieces like this, but I sort of felt like I needed a boundary. It just gave me then an opportunity that I knew I was heading into a corner, and I'm thinking of softening my flowers out onto the boundary where it's so densely stitched in there. It's, I've never put so much time into the size of a postage stamp. I'll bring it up to the camera so you can see a little bit closer the dense stitching. And I'm yet to sprinkle it with beads and ribbons, and I've done a little bit of ribbon work, so I'm still working on these flowers here. I've still got leaves to do. All of this has to be stitched in, and then finding little elements that complement it. They're yet to be worked. He's finished. That's about the only flower I have finished. These need their centers. I've done a little bit, but they need some sparkle. It is epic. Absolutely epic. All right, guys, I'll leave it at that. And I will see you in the next video. Have a lovely day. I hope you get some stitching done, even if it's just a Jennifer quick stitch snippet. At least it's something. All right, guys, look after yourselves, and yeah, have a great day. Bye.